So the social media guy, does he want to watch me, or where do you want me to be when you don't
We just hear you.
hear me?
We hear you, and
That's good enough.
yeah,
And you scan the audio.
and we scan the audio.
Very good. That's what I needed to know.
If I was fancy, I'd have a close up on the flag,
Back and forth.
like a
To them.
faux superimpose over the two,
Next time.
over to you, then over there. Yeah,
Another time.
yeah, yeah. What?
Are we all here? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday edition of the 2014 Old Threshers Reunion. Have you guys had a good day out here today? Well, on behalf of the Board of Directors and the staff here at Midwest Old Threshers, we're excited to welcome you here today to the Don Carlson Memorial Horsepull, the last official event of the 2014 Old Threshers Reunion. We hope you've had a good time. And at this time, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Paul Bishop, who was going to sing the national anthem. So if you'd all please rise and remove your hats.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, it gives me great privilege to introduce today your announcer for the Don Carlson Memorial Horsepull, Mr. Jeff Hoyer of Sullivan Auctioneers. They are also the sponsor of today's event. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Terry. Pleasure to be here, everyone. Hope everyone has had a very enjoyable Old Thrashers reunion in 4 or 5 or 6 days, however many days you could spend with us here in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. We've got a excellent horse pull to put on for you this afternoon. It is the Don Carlson Memorial Horse Pull. It is an invitational horse pull. All these teams have been invited for their horsemanship or their ability to pull or one reason or the other. So it's not really open to the public, so to speak. It is an invitational horse pull. We did pass out through the crowd a kind of a beige-colored score sheet. If everybody has one of them, or most of you have one of them, it gets a little bit confusing, but we'll try to keep you as straight and narrow as we can and on the up and up as far as the weights and the blocks and so forth. But they are listed there in their order. It is an overload pull. We call it an overload pull, and I'll kind of explain that later. But on that order, there are no changes. Rusty Harris is a 3,400-pound team. He will pull first. Ray Smith is also a 3,400-pound team going second, followed by Erlen Cooksley at 3,500. Then Cody Gray, another 3,500-pound team. Joe Miller at 3,550. Clay Robinson, also 3,550. J.W. Harris, 3,600. Ryan Smith at 3,750. Followed by David White, also at 3,750. Then Dan Gray at 4,000 pounds. Jody Moss at 4,100. And Ed Allen at 4,200. So that will be the order. And then those little dotted lines or those blanks there are for you to kind of make X's or crosses or whatever you want to do, or put in the distances that they pull. But we'll kind of get through that here the best we can, kind of get you familiarized with the pullers. A lot of them have been here before several years. We do have a couple of that have not been here, one for sure that has not been here before, and a few of them have not been here in several years. So we'll try to get you familiarized with the horses and the horse pullers. Hope you enjoy the afternoon show here. Should take a couple of hours, and our first man is going to be Rusty Harris. He's from Kirksville, Missouri. He is one of the lightest, the 3,400-pound team. He's going to be up first. They are pulling that stone sled. If some of you have never attended a horse pull or maybe a little bit different style of horse pull, we have what we call the stone boat or the sled there with the old Bluebird bus seats on them. It goes both directions. Everybody's going to have a good seat. We'll go from, looks like start on the west, go towards the east. So we're going to let Rusty Harris hook up. Ranger and Tony are the names of the horses. Ranger's on the right, Tony's on the left. There you go. You'll see that there is a chain. It's kind of hard to see there if you're up high in the grandstand, but there is a kind of a small link chain that goes right behind that stone bolt, hooked onto a horseshoe with a little stake on it. As soon as they travel the distance, which here at Old Thrashers we pull 18 feet. 18 feet is the distance. As soon as that chain is tight enough to pull over that horseshoe with the stake on it, then they blow the whistle and consider that a full pull. Ray Smith, another 3,400-pound team, going to hook on the same end of the sled, go the same direction with Charlie and Dick. And Ray not having any trouble here this first go-round. You'll kind of see this first round. It's not really intended to be a warm-up round, but sometimes it kind of turns out to be a little bit of a warm-up round. They all are going to pull with the addition of these cinder blocks. They will all pull exactly what the team weighs. They'll start out pulling exactly what the team weighs. So those two teams pulled 3,400. The boat weighs 3,000 empty. They had 8 blocks on there. Now we have Erlen Cooksley. He's from Buffalo, Missouri. His team weighs 3,500. So you've probably seen that they added 2 blocks for 100 pounds to bring her up to the weight of the team at 3,500 pounds. So Tom and Duke. Tom is on the right. Duke is on the left. Erlen Cooksley. Go in the other direction, Erlen. Nice job, Erlen, Tom, and Duke. That's an 8 and a 7-year-old not having any trouble this first time around. Cody Gray, he's going to bring his team in. Okay. Cody is one of the younger ones in the contest today, and one of the couple of our the Gray family from Villisca, Iowa. A lot of guys are from Missouri. Got a couple of them here from Iowa. Cody Gray bringing in his team. Again, they weigh 3,500 pounds, so you've seen the guys on the side of the track. Did not put any weight on the sled. We're just going to work our way right up to that heavy team. Up to the 4,200. We're going to change directions. Nice job, Cody. You can see that they're not having any trouble. They pulled her the 18 feet plus probably another round or two, I'm going to say. Plenty of distance on that, but as we get into these heavier weights, these guys will make it a little tougher on them fairly quickly. Joe Miller. Joe Miller, his team weighs just 35.50, so they just put on the one block. Joe Miller's from Clark, Missouri. His team of Pete and Prince. There's some of the older horses probably in the contest today. 12 teams altogether. And we will just continue each go-round by adding weight. As we'll, one by one, we'll eliminate them. And eventually we'll get down to the team that wins the contest. An overload pull is how it's considered. Some pulls are lightweights and heavyweights, and then they all pull the same amount of weight on the sled, but we compensate for what the horses weigh each and every go round. So Joe's bringing his team in 35.50, and yes sir, that's right. You might see a little bit of a different deal here. I'll explain that in just a minute. I'll let Joe get hooked on. He's got an honorary driver. He's not going to have any trouble, so I'll talk right through his pole. That's Mr. Don Garrett. Would you give Don Garrett a hand? He has been around here a good many years, and Joe just kind of wanted to start off the contest by turning the reins over to him. Don, I hope you had a little fun. That was kind of short and sweet, but I hope you had a good time on there. The next go-around, Joe's not going to want any riders, and the ones after that, a little extra weight won't be an advantage. But Don Garrett there getting a little bit of a ride there this afternoon, something he's kind of wanted to do. Here we have Clay Robinson. Clay is from way down in southern Missouri at Grove Springs, Missouri. He's going to hop up there. See how nicely he eased into it. Tony and Ted, that's a pair of 7-year-olds, Tony and Ted. And many of you that have been to the Horsepull before kind of probably wonder how come I'm not saying too much when they're pulling, but as they hook onto that sled and as they make their pull, especially when we get into the heavier rounds, and you just will get in the habit and get it practiced up here for these first rounds, we want everybody to be as quiet as they can as they hook and as they pull. And then when you hear that whistle blow, you can yell and scream and applaud and whatever you want to do. But until you hear that whistle, we want to keep everybody as quiet as possible. Well, that's J.W. Harris. Jake and Cody. J.W.'s from Kirksville. That team weighed 3,600. Now we're going up to a 3,750-pound team. This is Ryan Smith out of Clark, Missouri, and the reason we want to keep everybody quiet while they hook and while they pull, once in a while, when those guys that are helping them hitch, if they kind of clunk that double tree on there, them horses assumed they're hooked up and ready to go. They might not always be. There's a pretty shallow hook on there. And the other thing is, if you were to start applauding about halfway through the pull, they seriously think they probably have the job done and they'll stop. So to keep it fair for everybody, that's the reason that we want everybody to be nice and quiet. And Ryan Smith out of Clark, Missouri. And he gets the 18 feet and a whole lot more. That's Tom and Dawn. Tom and Dawn, a 6 and an 8-year-old. Some of these teams have not been together very long, and it's always interesting. They may have been together a long time, and they'll come up here and they won't want to work together very well. Or they may have been together for 1 or 2 pulls, and they may work like they've been together for several years. Every day is a little bit different. Most all these guys will tell you as long as they work together and do a good job, they're going to be satisfied whether they win or not. Of course, winning doesn't hurt. This is kind of a big deal. It's a large crowd they pull in front of. It's a nice crowd. All these guys always say how much they like to pull in front of the Old Thrasher crowd because it is a large crowd and a nice crowd, and they just get a big kick out of coming up here. This is kind of a combo team. David White's going to own 1 horse. Ed Smock will own the other team, or the other horse. And Ed Allen, the younger of the Smock boys, is going to do the driving. So 1 of David's horse and 1 of Ed's horse. Bill is on the right, Rex is on the left. And they're going back towards the east. And he covers 18 feet without a problem. Clear down there to the east end. I'm sure they're going to move the chain. One thing I haven't mentioned, if you look right behind the driver's seat, there's a tennis ball in a little cup. And should that tennis ball, when they get hooked on and let the horses go, should that tennis ball happen to bounce out of there, that would be a disqualification. That pull would not count. And the reason for that is just to kind of keep your horses under control at all times, and they'll kind of ease into it a little bit. It happens once in a while, but not a lot up here at Old Thrashers because they bring some mighty good horse pullers in for you folks to watch. And you're going to see they're going to have control of their horses at all times and put on a pretty darn good show for you. We think this may be the 40th anniversary of the Old Thrashers Horsepull. And Lennis told me, I said, so you've had it 40 years, or last year we talked about it? No, you got to have it 1 year before you can have an anniversary. So we've had a Horsepull 41 years, and this is the 40th anniversary, if my notes are right. I wouldn't swear to anything, but I think that's what the case is. 41 years with a 40th anniversary this year. This is Dan Gray from Valiska, Iowa. Bringing in his team, they weigh 4,000 pounds. This is Ben and Jerry. They're both 7 years old. He's going to hook on, come back to the west. This round, okay. Oh, it's going to rain. Yeah. There you go, Dan Gray out of Valiska, Iowa with Ben and Jerry. Nice job. He brought her about halfway down through. And we're working up to the heavier horses. This team that's coming in will weigh 4,100 pounds. And, of course, the old saying goes, it takes a big horse to weigh a ton. Well, there's that last team on average. The last team, this team, and the next team, these horses are going to weigh over a ton apiece. These are some pretty big horses. This is Jody Moss. Her husband's Gary Moss. He was here last year. He was not able to be here this year, and I'll explain why in a little bit. So Jody is from Atlanta, Missouri. This is Bobby and Barney. I'm sure she's going to put on a good show for you, so sit right there and watch her pull and keep real still while she hooks on and gets onto that sled. Good job, Jody. Doing a nice job with an awful big team there, 4,100 pounds. That'll bring us up to the heaviest team in the contest. This is the Smock family. Ed Smock, and I believe Ed's going to be doing the driving. These are half brothers, 4,200 pound team. Ed has not been here since 2010, but when he was here in 2010, he took home first place. This is Flash and Doc. Flash is on the right, Doc is on the left, a 9 and an 8-year-old. Ed is going to bring him in from Clarence, Missouri. Ed Smock and the Smock family.
Oh, that's not Ed, is it? That's Ed Allen. Well, that's who I had.
He didn't have any trouble, and that's Ed Allen, the younger of the Smock driving. Ed Allen Smock driving the team. He'll probably be driving them the rest of the day. Everybody completed the first go-round. You might notice, too, there is kind of thin yellow ropes there. Those are the out-of-bounds ropes. They have to stay within those yellow ropes. And, Dan, are they 18 feet wide as well? Same as the distance they pull. Same as the distance they pull.
So now we're going up 1,000. Okay, so they didn't have to take any off. We're never gonna...
Okay. Rusty bringing his team in, Rusty Harris, that weighs 3,400. So with the addition of the heavy teams plus what they just put on, now this team will be pulling 4,400 and even 1,000 over what the team weighs. Keep real still. Nice job, Rusty. And you'll see just that extra 1,000 pounds is going to make a difference. Probably everybody will get along just fine, but they're probably not going to take it halfway down the track as they have been that last go-round. So everybody will pull 1,000 pounds this go-round over the weight of the team. Ray Smith, another 3,400-pound team. This team is full brothers. An 8 and 11-year-old, Charlie and Dick. Ray's bringing his team in. He's been to Old Thrashers several times before. Charlie and Dick getting the 18-foot distance covered. Yeah. 100 pounds goes on for Erlen Cooksley. Erlen's from down there at Buffalo, Missouri, which is about 30 miles north of Springfield. He's about 300 miles from home. I think Clay's just a little bit farther. So these guys have traveled quite a ways to get to you here this afternoon. Erlen Cooksley. Tom and Duke. He's been at this horse pulling business, he tells me, about 35 years. He was your 9th place finisher last year here at Old Thrashers. And they get the job done, Tom and Duke do. Erlen Cooksley advancing on to the next go-round. Cody Gray, we're ready for you. Oh. These folks are going to be as they have in the past. If you've been here before, you've seen us do this before, but they are going to be passing the bucket or passing the hat, if you will, around through the grandstands. I think you can all kind of agree the admission price to the horse show was pretty reasonable this afternoon. So as they pass those buckets around through the stands there and through you, the audience, why, drop in a buck or two or 5 or 10, whatever you feel. That all goes on towards putting on the next horse pull. And those are all members of the Don Carlson family, and we sure appreciate them doing that and helping out with the horse pull today in honor of Don. And so watch for those buckets to come up and down the alleyways and across the seats there. Cody Gray covering the 18 feet with Duke and Bob, and they haven't owned the Bob horse very long, so they have not. This is just their second pull together, so they're kind of anxious to see how everything works out. Cody is sure a nice young man, just graduated high school this spring, moving on to college over there at Creston. He's a 4th-generation horse puller, and we're ready for Joe Miller, and no riders this time. Joe's all by himself with Pete and Prince, an 18 and a 17-year-old, going to go back towards the west. Nice job, Joe, and I believe he, let's see, got to look at my notes. I thought he was a winner last year and maybe the year before. I have to read my notes a little bit closer. Clay Robinson. He's, 350 miles away, Grove Springs. He's way down there in southern Missouri. He was about the only one that said he had not had ample rainfall throughout the summer. He said it was just pretty dry down there, but southern Missouri is going to be like that once in a while, but about everybody else, green grass and good crops all over the Midwest. Tony and Ted, both 7 years old. He's only owned them for 1 month. Each horse, he's only owned them for 1 month. They were at Licking, Missouri to a pull together, and that's the first time this team's ever been together. And more than likely, according to what he was told, first horse pull they've ever been in. So they're just right out of the field. Never been to horse pulls before in their life. Just worked as workhorses out in the field, doing whatever. Keep real quiet. They work good together there, Clay. Nice job. He's been up here about 17 years, it looks like, he tells me. So he knows his way to Old Thrashers without much trouble. JW, 3,600-pound team. Over there at Kirksville, Missouri. I know they've got plenty of rain over at Kirksville. They had 1 rain, and I talked to some other fellows over there. We get over there once in a while with some land auctions and so forth. And 1 rain, JW said he had 7.5 inches in 1 rain. And in a period of about 10 or 12 days, they come up with about 13 or 13.25 inches of rain in about 10-day span. So plenty of rain over there in the Kirksville area for sure. Jake and Cody, they're both 15 years old. JW's owned them quite a while. And they cover 18 feet. Ryan Smith, he's next. I tell you about, well, first thing this morning, this track didn't look like a horse pull. It was probably a thing that was going to happen. But some of the guys got on I think they had a little crawler dozer over here and a couple of skid loaders. They peeled that mud back. You see they kind of windrowed it off to the side and made a pile, got down to some solid dirt. And actually, it dried off nice this afternoon. It's just in pretty darn good shape. Pretty hard, but it'll be the same for everybody. This is Ryan Smith coming back to the east. You might notice those pulling shoes if you've not walked through the barns and so forth. They got special shoes on, different than other horses. They got a deep cleat, kind of like a baseball cleat. That helps them get traction on this hard dirt. And Ryan also, he's got plenty of room to spare. You hear that whistle? They've covered the ground. Those cleats will probably get pretty good traction. It's hard, but it's not quite hard enough that they won't dig in just a little bit. Here we go with David White and the Smock family team. Bill and Rex. David's got 7th place 2 years in a row. Several of these guys have got the same place finish a couple years in a row, and David's been there in 7th place. He had another horse, his Bud horse. It's here, but he's just not quite up to par. So they've made this team, and, well, now it looks like David's going to drive. Okay, David. These horses and these drivers and owners, they're kind of like moms and dads and kids. They just get along, and sometimes they get along together, and sometimes they don't. And I think David wasn't real sure how he was going to get along with that Smock family horse. So he thought maybe Ed Allen would do the driving and get along better, but David's been around horses a long time. I'm going to say if he can't get along with a strange horse, I don't know who can. So he's getting along real good, it looks like. Dan Gray from Villisca. He's bringing in Ben and Jerry, both 7 years old. Both 7 years old. He's going to hook onto that east end there, probably one more time. And we'll turn her around. And they didn't have any trouble. Dan is a 3rd-generation horse puller. He's been out several times, 15 or more, 17 pulls this year. He got 2nd down at the Missouri State Fair and 3rd at the Iowa State Fair and 3rd at the Nebraska State Fair, so he's been getting along real well. Dan has that team at 4,000. Moving on to the only lady in the contest. That's Jody Moss. Her husband, Gary, got an opportunity to kind of go on the road, if you will, or go on tour with a 6-horse hitch that goes to shows and fairs and exhibits and things like that. So he's kind of out on the road, and she said, well, I'm not going to sit around here and wait for you. I'm going to get the horses, throw them in the trailer, and we're going to go to a few pulls. So she's been out to 7 or 8 pulls this year with that team there. Bobby and Barney, they're both 8 years old. 4,100 pounds, so they'll be pulling 5,100 pounds. Let's keep real quiet while she hooks and pulls. And she covers it, 18 feet. Now, she's not the only lady that's been up here, the Old Thrashers Invitational Horse Pull. If you've been here before, you know that Joe Miller's wife, Fanny, has been here several times, and she's right alongside Joe most of the time. helping him with whatever he's up to, and and she's been out there. She'll help him hook today. So, to my knowledge, maybe there's been a couple of gals. Oh, no, there you are. What are you doing sitting down? You're watching. Well, I wasn't even paying attention. I just assumed you were there. You're observing today. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Well, Fanny's taking a little break today, Joe. You'll have to find some other help, but I'm sure you will. So we've had a couple of women pullers up here that I'm aware of. Jody will be the second one, and to my knowledge, Fanny's the first one that I've ever announced for, I believe. Here's Ed Allen, bringing in Flash and Doc. Here, Flash and Doc, they're half-brothers, and they're not having any trouble. They're not having any trouble. Kenny and Judy Penton of Middle Grove, Missouri raised that team, and they've been around in the horse barn quite a bit of the time. They're over there all the time, and he says, well, I hope they don't get rained out. He said, that's the only reason I come to Old Thrashers. He said, go to the Horsepull, but he's been here the whole time anticipating that Horsepull. Well, that's the end of that go-round. We're going to put on another 1,000 pounds. So each team will be pulling 2,000 pounds over the weight. So I think by now you kind of figure out how it goes, why we call it an overload pull. Handed a note here, the ground trains down there on the east end. If you're from the campgrounds, why those ground trains are parked down there, they're ready to, not now, but when the horse pull is over, they will take you down back to your camper. So you're going to have a ride back, so just sit back and enjoy the horse pull. And the ground trains will not leave you stranded up here. They will get you back to your camper. Looks like we should be ready for Rusty Harris. Rusty's going to have a birthday. He said, well, you don't have to tell everybody that. Well, you shouldn't have told me then. But he's going to be turning 55 here just in a few days. Rusty Harris from Kirksville. Now it's going to get a little tougher, so we need to keep real still. Nice and quiet. And he covers the distance. He's been at it about 21 years. He's only been out to about 5 or 6 pulls. That's kind of like everything. They just get busy. And as everybody knows, everybody's schedule is busy and time gets a little short. If they had their way, they'd probably go to a horse pull every weekend, but then they wouldn't get their work done at home or wherever they need to be. So he's been out to about 5 or 6 pulls, but gets along real good with Ranger and Tony. He works down there in Adair County for the Bridge and Culvert crew. Ray Smith. Be the same weight, 5,400 pounds. Charlie and Dick going to go back towards the west another time. He just kind of walked right along. Ray retired from the Columbia, Missouri Fire Department after 20 years. Now he's driving a school bus for the Sturgeon School District. 15 or 16 years he's been doing that. He was telling me a little bit of a story about that Charlie horse. And I guess I just act like I knew what he was talking about and I didn't seem surprised. But believe it or not, he's had that horse to a chiropractor. Fix a shoulder and a hip. And he swears by it. He says he fixed him, he heard it pop, and it went back in, and the horse is fine. 14 even. That first pole was 14 feet even. 13 the second one. Well, at least we're keeping it on even feet. That's easier to measure. 14 feet for the first one, 13 feet for the second one. And they do get 3 attempts. I guess we have not went over that part of it. They do get 3 attempts, so he may walk them around. He can spot that sled for his third and final attempt if he chooses to do so. Erlen did have a knee replaced, and he said he just didn't get the horses out and work them like he wanted to. Just like always, there's other things come up, and for one reason or another, he didn't have them out as much and work them and get them in condition as much as he wants. He's going to the same as spot the sled, but we're just going to change directions. We're not going to move it, but we're going to change directions, which is the same as spotting the sled. He thinks there might be a little advantage to going that way. So when he hooks Tom and Duke on, keep real still. If he covers the 18 feet, you'll hear the whistle blow, and then you can give him a big round of applause. Otherwise, we'll take the longest of the 3. And whether that comes into play, if someone else pulls less or more, or however it works out, we'll kind of get you filled in. But this will be his third and final attempt at this weight, so keep real still while he pulls, and he's going to be talking to Tom and Duke just a little bit, probably. Let's give him a big round of applause. Erlen Cooksley from Buffalo, Missouri. Thank you for coming up, Erlen. $15 feet even. Well, I'll be darned. That doesn't happen very often. 15 feet for the third one, so that's the one they're going to go by. So 15, 14, and 13. And a lot of pulls they go to 15 feet, you would have heard the whistle. So, you know, them horses kind of have the steps counted out. So here we go with Cody. Keep real quiet. Cody Gray from Villisca. He covered it with Duke and Bud. Duke and Bud. Duke and Bud getting the job done. Joe Miller, we're ready, and he's ready. Well, we got a little problem there, Joe. I don't know. We're going to get... Huh? Oh, it does. Okay. Well, if I was that, I see the advantage to this deal. We lost a block along the way. But I'm going with Dan Winstrom, and he is the director of the horse exhibit area, and he's the boss, so I'm going with what he says. He says that counts. But if you can rattle 4 or 5 blocks off of there every time, yet keep the tennis ball in the cup, I think that's the theory you ought to go with. Good job, Joe. I don't know how you did that. Clay Robinson. He's going to bring his team in. Clay's from Grove Springs down there. He's just owned this team, Tony and Ted, for 30 days. So that's not a very long getting used to one another period. And as I said before, they have never been hooked to a sled before in a horse pull. So we'll see how Clay gets along. Who's that? Oh, that kid told me his name and I forget it. There he did it. It doesn't matter how fast you get it done as long as you get it done. And then Tony and Ted just kind of worked along there, and they got it done. A little tougher for them. It's getting a little tougher here, this extra 1,000 pounds. There's different styles of sled, and a lot of guys talk about, and of course, different types of dirt. Every track's a little bit different. And most all these guys will tell you up here that this is one of the toughest tracks. One, because of the type of dirt it is, and maybe because it's had how many 1,000 pounds and tons of steam engines run on it, and it gets down pretty hard. But under that boat is rails, and they're only about 4 inches wide, whether some other sleds have wider rails and spread that weight out a little bit and make it a little bit easier to pull. A lot of these teams have pulled a lot more weight at other horse pulls, some even up 10, 11, 12, 13,000 pounds. But we'll probably run out of blocks before we get that high, but they won't pull that kind of weight here. It's just in the dirt and the way those rails right on that track. Here's JW with Jake and Cody. And he gets the job done. JW's going to turn 79 years old in November, and his wife Judy's up here right on the front stage. She's always up here taking pictures and videotaping things. They've been married 59 years, I believe. 59 years. That's quite a milestone. And they probably have been coming here to the Old Thrasher Horse Pull longer than any of the other guys, any of the other horse pullers. So the Harris family been around here a long time, and I've got to know JW, and he's an awful nice fella. Ryan Smith, ready for Tom and Don. That Tom horse on the right, they've just owned for about a week. He's been married to his lovely wife about 10 years. They got 2 boys and a girl. You know, you've been around a long time. We introduced Ryan here several years ago as a single bachelor, actively looking, and about a year or 2 later he shows back up and he's married. Now he's got 2 boys and a girl and been married 10 years, so that kind of makes me feel old just a little bit, Ryan, but congratulations. Anyway, he's got a couple bachelor's degree too. Good job, Ryan. Good job. When they got that horse, the horse on the left, that was just over a year ago. He weighed about 1,450 pounds, and they kind of took care of him really well, and they put about 450 pounds of weight on him. He weighs about 1,900 now. So he might have been short of a bale of hay once in a while or something, or working a little harder than he does now. But anyway, he got a little meat to him now. David White, Ed Smock, Bill and Rex. David's horse come up not feeling so good, so they put this team together kind of at the last minute. This is the first time they've been side by side. So far, they've been doing real good. Let's keep real quiet while David drives them. He covered it, 18 feet. David told me he's driving a truck for Mid-Am. He drives a semi for the Mid-Am company, and he's kind of shooting for retirement. And then when he gets that accomplished, then he says he's going to go to a lot more horse pulls, be a lot more time available. Ready for Dan Gray. And I have his lovely wife Teresa up here to my left, your right. She is the one keeping track of all this put the blocks on, put the blocks off business. does an excellent job. Without her, it'd be a disaster. So Dan Gray from Villisca with Ben and Jerry. He's been pulling horses about 30 years. He's a third-generation horse puller. Going back towards the west. See Cody put that ball back in there for anybody who maybe saw that. You're not fast enough, Cody. I don't know how many people looking, but we caught it. So that's what I was talking about earlier when they come to the end of the tugs there a little bit, they jerked the front of that sled, and that ball bounced out. So that pull, whether the distance or whether he pulled it 18 feet or not, doesn't matter. That is a disqualification, but he's still got 2 attempts to pull the 18 feet. Going to come back going to come back the other way. So keep real quiet while he hooks and pulls. There you got it. I think maybe that cup on that end of the sled is a little deeper than the one is on the west end. Dan Gray covers 18 feet. See Dan Winstrom and Teresa talking back and forth. We're making sure we get all the right blocks on when they need to be. And when I said putting them on, taking them off, so far they have not taken any off because there's less than 1,000 pounds between the light and the heavies. And we'll see what Dan wants to do this next go-around. But if we would only add 500 pounds, then we have to take blocks off. And we'll make that decision, or he probably already has, but he'll let us know. Here's Jody Moss from Atlanta, Missouri. Bobby and Barney, keep real quiet for Jody while she hooks and pulls. There you go. Nice job, Jody. She was a-talking to him. They just didn't quite get together the first time. 2'3" was the first distance. Really doesn't matter. She covered 18 feet. She'll advance right on to the next round. Nice job. It's always nice, and they just kind of let them stand there, and they got to regroup just a little bit, talk to them just a little bit. And more than likely, they're going to get the job done when they do that. I tell you, that's an awful gentle pair of horses. If you walk through the barn, there was a little girl. I'm not sure who she belonged to. I think part of the family, but she was up on them horses. And I'm going to say she was somewhere between 2 and 3 years old. 2. And she just sat up there just like she was, I don't know what. She wasn't scared. I would have been, but she was not. So they're really nice. Oh, yeah, okay. Real nice, gentle pair of horses. Here we go with Ed Allen. Flash and Doc. Okay, that first one, the horse on the right, I was kind of looking at my notes here. He stepped on the rope. Is that right? He stepped on the rope, so he was out of bounds, disqualified that attempt. So they blew the whistle on him, reset the stake. He gathered him up again and got that attempt at the course, made the 18-foot. Okay, now we're where I was talking about taking blocks off. We're going to increase the weight by 500, so the guys will have to take off blocks. The teams will be pulling 2,500. over the weight. This is when it really gets kind of confusing, actually, but so they'll be pulling 2,500 pounds over the weight of the team.
And we got Rusty still in, I suppose.
And we're starting with Rusty Harris. He's one of the lightest teams in the contest, 3,400 pounds. So some pretty quick math there. Get me 5,900 pounds total weight, blocks and the sled. So it will get fairly tough. So now's kind of when it becomes even more important that if they'd happen not to get together or slip or whatever, that keep as quiet as you can until you hear the whistle blow, and then you can let them hear it. Eight foot 4 inches. 8 foot 4 inches. We'll see what Rusty wants to do. As I said, he does have a total of 3 attempts. And if they want to save the horses, if you will, I don't know if that's a proper terminology, but if they want to save the horses, they will waive the second attempt, and then they will go forward on the third attempt, and that's what he's doing. He's going to waive the second. Is that right, Dan? And he's just going to turn this, he's just leaving it set but go the other direction. He's going to leave it set right where it is. Leave it set right where it is. Change the ball and change the chain. And he's going to go back to the west. So this will be his third attempt. Of course, that first one was 8 foot 4, if you're keeping track on that beige score sheet. So this time for sure, keep real still for Rusty Harris. Now you can let him hear it, ladies and gentlemen. Rusty all the way from Kirksville, Missouri. Ranger and Tony. 11 foot. 11 foot. So he bettered the mark, but he did not get 18 feet. Now we'll see. That may come into play, and it may not. If everybody crosses the line, pulls the distance, he'll be down there in 11th place, I believe. Yeah. So now we're ready for Ray Smith. Same deal, not going to change the blocks any. Charlie and Dick, that's a team that's full brothers. He's owned them 3 and 4 years. He's from Clark, Missouri. This is the one, he took the Charlie horse to get to some work done by the chiropractor, and he had his shoulder and a hip out of place, and he says that guy picks that foot up and works them horses around and does quite a good job. I wasn't aware there was a profession as a horse chiropractor, but sure enough there is. You learn something every day. Keep real quiet. And they walked right along. Charlie and Dick did without too much trouble at all. And of course, after he went to the chiropractor, then you get orders just like you would, light duty work for so long, and then you're not supposed to pull for so long, and ease him back into it. And that's what he's done, and he's getting along just fine. Cody Gray, he's that 4th generation horse puller. Going to college over there at Creston for livestock production. Just been at this horse pulling business about 5 years. Duke and Bud. An 8 and a 10-year-old. He was here last year, got 5th place. So always looking to better a mark, but the competition is pretty tough up here sometimes, and I don't think this year will be any exception. So Cody Gray getting ready to hook. And they walked right along with her. 18 feet, and you hear the whistle blow. Ready for Joe Miller. He also didn't get to as many pulls as he'd liked. He said they're just a little bit too far away for him to make them all. He's been to about 6. He's owned this team 9 years. A lot of these guys do a lot of trading around, don't keep them quite that long, but Joe's owned them for 9 years. Pete and Prince. They didn't have too much trouble. Walked right along with it. Joe and Fanny have been up here since the 21st of August. They always come early. They help set up all these horse demonstrations, and some of you folks may or may not realize just how much work there is. All this stuff's got to be drug out of these buildings and set up and ready for you folks to watch, and he comes up, and then once they get them all set up, then he helps at all those demonstrations. So they put in a lot of time up here. Fanny and Joe do. Clay Robinson, he's coming in, been married to his wife, Ruth, of 53 years, so he should know his wife pretty well by now. Tony and Ted, he's only owned them 7 months. Now, I shouldn't say owned, I wasn't referring to his wife, I was referring to the horses. He's owned Tony and Ted 1 month. They're both 7 years old. I think he's been to this horse pull about 17 years. Got here a week ago today. So let's keep real quiet for Tony and Ted. Hey, he got the job done. It, at first, didn't look like maybe he was going to get the job done, but that horse on the right, Tony, kind of kicked it in high gear just a little bit. Got her 18 feet. Enough to move on to the next go-round. Nice job, Clay. Working with those horses he was. Ready for JW. They arrived here on Thursday, so they've been here quite a while. The whole reunion long. Pair of 15-year-old horses. JW's best finish this year has been 4th. He's been kind of all over to Kelowna, Iowa, and Missouri State Fair, New Market, Iowa, Pickering, Missouri, Grant City, Missouri. Been around. He's looking to beat that finish of 4th place if he can today. We'll see how he gets along with Jake and Cody. Team weighs 3,600. Okay? .3'8" on that first one. .3'8" on the first attempt. He called the second attempt a bump. Okay? Now we'll see what JW wants to do. He has that option. You're just changing direction. Okay? So keep real still, if you will, while JW hooks on. This will be his third and final attempt. Not going to get it done. Let's give J.W. Harris from Kirksville, Missouri, a big round of applause. It's going to be longer than 3'8". 8'3". Just turned the numbers around. How about that? 8'3". So we'll see how that plays out if need be in this go round. We should be ready for Ryan Smith. Okay, he'll have to take it the direction. Well, they changed it. Okay, he's going to come back to the east. Ryan Smith with Tom and Don. That 3,750-pound team just kind of walked right along there. He arrived here this morning at Old Thrashers for the Horsepull. Ready for David White and the Smuck family combination. David's been around the pulling business a long time, about 33 years. He's been to 25 this year. So he's been to a good many pulls. He's been to a good many pulls, not with this team, but these guys mix and match teams all the time. One gets off just a little bit, laid up, whatever the case may be. They'll leave him in the barn and go to the pasture and get a different one, or whatever the case is. So Bill and Rex here, who he's working with today, keep real quiet. David getting along real good. He owns the horse on the right, and Ed owns the horse on the left. He's getting along just fine so far. Up to that 4,000-pound team of Dan Grays. Then I'm going to say we'll work right through here, and then we'll probably add another 500 pounds to what they pulled last, and we'll see how this all shakes out. Those guys are working hard to make sure them blocks kind of set in there tight. They just fit, just kind of so in a manner. Your second place finisher last year and the year before, I believe. 2 years in a row, he'd sure like to be on top when this one's over with. Ben and Jerry. He's only owned that Jerry horse. That's the horse on the left, about 3 months. Get them blocks all situated just right. He's got a pretty good season going. Several first place Lincoln, Nebraska, and several second and thirds. So he could be tough. He's going to hook on the east end and go east. And he got her done. Them guys worked hard to make sure they had them blocks arranged right. He's got Joe Miller technique down. He lost the block, but I guess it counts. Now we're up to the only gal in the contest, Jody, Bobby, and Barney. They've got a nice trailer down there in the horse area. They've got kids, and they like to show pigs and cattle at the fairs and so forth to keep them busy. They own the Boone County Draft Horse and Mule Auction. They have a couple auctions down there a year. That's coming up in about 10 days, so I'm sure their schedule is going to be busy from here on out. Jody told me they'd sell about 700 head of horses and mules down there. In fact, I've got a program. She brought up some. If anybody's interested, I'm sure she'll get you one. Looks like a 4-day sale, September 10th through the 13th. Maybe you want to buy a draft horse and get into this business. So here we go with Jody's 4,100-pound team. Looks like they got you going straight ahead to the east. So as Jody hooks on and pulls, let's keep real quiet. Give everybody as fair a chance as we can here at Old Thrashers. (1'8" was the first one. 8 inches the second attempt. So we'll see what Jody wants to do. She does have one more attempt. And of course she can keep it right where it is. She can change direction, or is there a pullback tractor down there? Or a tractor down there somewhere, I'm going to say. She can spot that sled anywhere on the track she wants. Just going to change direction. Seems to be the choice today. I don't know, there's not much difference on that track. When they bladed her off, it's pretty flat. Of course, it slopes our way just a little bit, but that wouldn't matter going east and west. So she's kind of maybe making an adjustment or two to the harness down there. Again, the second heaviest team at 4,100 pounds. Going to bring them right up. Going to hook onto the west end. She's going to be talking to them a little bit, so be as quiet as possible. Not going to get it done here this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Give Jody Moss, we sure appreciate you coming out. Coming up from Atlanta, Missouri, about 160 miles away she is. 1'7". 1'7" if you're keeping the score. So the 1'8" would be the longest mark. Ready for Ed Allen and the Smuck family at Clarence, Missouri. A 9 and an 8-year-old. A 9 and an 8-year-old. He said this has been a family affair for a long time, and they have a lot of fun doing it. Now, Ed, you bet. Again, thanks, Jody, for coming up. Maybe Gary will be around available next year to where he can come up and help with this horse pull. She did a nice job. Tough conditions. I mean, it's a tough horse pull. Tough track conditions. Ed Allen going to do the driving here. Flash and Doc, they've had a pretty good season. they've had several first place finishes. I had to kind of pry that information out of them, so keep real quiet. And he gets her done. A lot of these horse pullers are kind of modest, and they don't like to brag about their team very much. It's a little hard sometimes to get information out of them, and then when you do get the information out of them, it might not be the exact correct information, but you know how that goes. But he's been out several times, and I think that Flash horse, wherever he's went, he's never took home anything but first place. There we got broken blocks now, it looks like. Oh, we're going to have to get into that budget a little bit, buy some new blocks. What do you think, Dan? Ray? Ready for Ray Smith.
That's 3,000 over.
So there are a total of 3,000 overweight. He's 6,400 pounds. For several of these teams, it'll get kind of down to the nitty-gritty probably this round. I could be fooled. I don't know. They might walk right along and we'll be right on to the next round. You're doing a good job of being quiet while they pull, and then I as well appreciate it, but the horse pullers really appreciate it. Gives everybody a fair chance. He's going to bring in Charlie and Dick. $3,000 over what the horses weigh. 6,400 grand total. You can see they're kind of starting to sweat a little bit. It's warm enough, and they're working hard. So here we go with a new round. He was talking to Dick just a little bit. He had to give him a little words of encouragement. But they got the job done. They didn't have a lot to spare. And you may see some of these guys be awful close to that 15-foot. If they've been in several horse pulls, those horses have just about got it figured out how many steps it takes to get 15 feet. And once they think they've done it, they may come up and stop. Here we go with Cody. Young Cody just graduated high school this spring. Second time this team's been together, Duke and Bud. And he also covers 18 feet. I think you're going to see a whale of a finish on this horse pull today. Joe Miller, he's ready to go. I think he told me he's got 3 first-place finishes out of the 6 horse pulls he's been to, so he's having a good summer. Pete and Prince are. He's going to back them up and hook them on. And he also gets that 18-foot mark covered. He was the first-place finisher here the last 2 years in a row, so he's going to be tough. 18 years he's been coming to the Old Thrashers horse pull. Again, the Don Carlson Memorial Invitational horse pull. Always invite 12 teams up. They kind of look them over this time around and how they handle the team and just overall how they get along, and they watch them through the summer. And then they decide who they're going to invite. We'll see what Clay wants to do. Tony and Ted, they never really got together there this time around, one ahead of the other, and then obviously they're not going to get it done with just one. I think he may, has he had enough? Set. He's done. Yep. He's going to take his horses off of there, ladies and gentlemen. That's Clay Robinson from Grove Springs. 7 inches was the mark on the first attempt. I don't know, did he move it on the second one? It didn't go really anywhere on the second one. His horses have had enough today. He's going to take them off. And we're going to move on to Ryan Smith. 4 blocks have to go on quickly. We'll run down all of the standings when you get done, when we get all done. So if you want to keep track on your score sheet, we'll go first to 12th. But right now we've got Tom and Don coming up here with Ryan Smith out of Clark, Missouri.
Mike, hold the key down a little bit. You got a delay.
Lost a tennis ball, Ryan.
On that mic, so hold it down a little bit.
There you go. They were ready. You see what he did the second time? He just eased them right in, and they just walked along. They worked well together. He covered the 18 feet. That first one was a scratch. He was 4th place last year, so he's going to be tough too. As I said, you've got 4 or 5 teams here that are going to be pretty hard to beat. I'm not sure how many rounds of 500 we're going to have to put on. We'll get them stopped sooner or later. Ready for David White. Got here this morning. He's one that tells me this is one of the toughest tracks they pull on. I think he said this team may have pulled like 9,500 pounds or something like that fairly recently, or one of his other teams. But he said, we're not going to do that up here today. Bill and Rex, both 7 years old, will keep real quiet. There you go, for not being together very long, or this is their first time. They're doing a nice job this afternoon, and as I said earlier when we started, all these guys, sure, they like to win, but if they leave and feel like their team has worked well together here today, they're going to be just about as happy as if they did win, whether they do or not. They just want their teams to work well together and put on a good show for you folks here at the Horsepull. We appreciate you all kind of sticking around here. The grand finale, if you will, of the 2014 Old Threshers reunion. I think we've had pretty good crowds, pretty good turnout. Obviously, we had a little bit of wet weather, but there's not much you can do when you have an outdoor event about the weather. And the crew here improvises where needed and when needed and do a good job, and I think everything went just real well. Here's Dan Gray out of Aliska. Okay, 15 foot and 2 inches. So in a lot of pulls, that would have knocked that stake over. 15 foot, 2 inches for Dan Gray and his team. Ben and Jerry there, we're going to see what he wants to do. He wants to pull at 18 feet is what he wants to do. We're going to see how he's going to get around that. Going to hook right where it sets, I believe, guys. Going to hook right there. Second attempt. Okay. Them ropes are a little hard to see, and I didn't see that myself. But Dan was right down there on top of it, and he says the horse stepped over the line. Is that right? The horse stepped over the rope. This will be the last attempt. Horse stepped over the rope so that he was out of bounds. There are only 18 feet between the ropes. He wants a tractor. Is that right? He wants a tractor. He's going to spot that sled. He's got another spot in mind. So I think he's going to want a little bit to the west. 15-2 if you're keeping score. Oh, we got a man on the tractor, I hope. 15 foot 2 inches. He's going to move it down to the west a little bit. Kind of look things over. See maybe where there might be a little bit of an advantage. Not going to be much, but he's got a spot picked out where he thinks there'll be some. Looks like Sinclair Tractor is loaning us a spotting tractor or pullback tractor, whatever you want to call it. Sinclair dealers all over the southeast part of the state now. Several dealerships.
What's the total weight?
Yeah, 7,000 pounds is the total weight. 7,000 pounds, 3,000 over what that team weighs at 4, so or even 3,000 over. He's going to put it a little bit to the high side. Probably point it a little bit downhill if he can. Yeah, he's got it pretty straight, looks like. He's right there where they're at. That looks good enough. He's got her kind of close to that trackside rope just a little bit. Now I think he wants that tractor to come in. Well, if all three of you just grab a hold of that and set that front end over a little bit. How'd that guy in the green t-shirt help you too? He'll set that sled over there. Well, I don't think so. Now I think he's going to have the tractor put it at just a little bit of an angle. That'll be the downhill run he's after. Not very much downhill, but there might be just enough advantage to get it done. He had that 15 foot 2 inches. Then had a good run going before, and one of the horses stepped out of bounds. I believe it'd be the one on the right. Now we'll see how good of a tractor driver we got. Quite a few people watching. You want to make sure you get it right. Of course, he can't hear me. Little 6140M John Deere tractor there, front wheel assist. Oh, that would be a 110 or 20 horse tractor maybe. Well, he didn't move her very much. That's where he wants it. So this will be his third attempt at 7,000 pounds. He's going to come back towards the east. Then we just have one left. That's Ed Allen. Here we go. We'll keep real quiet as he hooks on and gives us his third and final attempt. That's all it took. He got the job done. I think if we need advice on where to spot the sled, we're coming to you. See where to put it. Ed Allen, Flash and Doc, we're ready for you. Then imagine we'll go up another 500 pounds, Dan, yeah? Another 500 pounds will go on this next time around. And there's going to be there'll be some tough pulls coming for some of these, and we'll see. They may all cross, who knows? A 9 and an 8-year-old. They won the pull at the Denver Stock Show. I'm sure that's a pretty big deal out there, Denver, Colorado. From Clarence, Missouri, 150 miles away from home. Ed Allen doing the driving here this afternoon. Going to be going towards the east. He got her a little bit close to that rope for you. And he covers. He covers 18 feet. Teresa says 6 blocks come off. We still have the heaviest and the lightest team in the contest. So you can kind of see that weight doesn't always mean the difference in these horse pull contests. It's all kind of in how much they've been able to work the horses and spend time and keep them in shape and keep them in condition. Ray is from Clark, Missouri. Charlie and Dick, a full brothers team, 8 years and 11. Charlie on the right. Okay, we're ready for Ray. Well, we'll get a distance. 9'6". We'll see what Ray wants to do. Bring that tractor in, guys. He says, I kind of overheard him there. He says he wants it down there where Dan had it before. I don't blame him. It worked out real good for Dan. He probably wants her about in the same spot and maybe that same angle. There must be a little bit of advantage there. He's been to several pulls, mostly around Missouri. Ray has. His dad got him started pulling horses. He drives a school bus. After he retired from the fire department, he drives that school bus for the Sturgeon School District down there in Missouri. Going to take that sled to the west just a little bit, kind of close to that grandstand side rope. Ryan's down there, going to direct traffic here just a little bit. Always like to ask people, so far, how are you enjoying the horse pull here at Old Thrashers? Real well, good? Good. Then sometimes by a show of hands, and it always kind of amazes me how many people have never been to a horse pull before. There's quite a few. I hope you're enjoying it as well. It's always something you just don't see every day of the week, or, well, you may have to go a long ways to find one like this. Pretty proud of the horse pull here at Old Thrashers. Dan Winstrom again down there in that maroon shirt. He does a well of a job at the horse exhibit area as director. Of course, as we always talk about, when you hear anybody talking about Old Thrashers, it's the number of volunteers that are here. Hundreds and hundreds of volunteers to put this show on. Let's keep real quiet while Ray hooks on. Well, that's not going to work out as good as it did for Dan, but we got 9-6 on the first one. We'll see what it is the second one. Looks like it's going to be a little shorter. 9, oh, my eyes are pretty good. 9'3", so that's what we're going to go with. 9-6 will be the longest one. So Ray Smith will not move on to the next go-around. Ray, we sure appreciate you being up here from Clark, Missouri. Thanks again, you bet. Give him a big round of applause. When we get all done, they do award a horsemanship, and we'll let you know who that is. The guys are kind of watching these guys a little bit, how they handle their team throughout the pull. So we will announce to you when we get all done the horsemanship award. Looks like we have got 6 men left in this contest. Here's Cody. Cody Gray from Villisca. Going to come up there a little bit short. 9'11". So we'll see what he wants to do. If Dan, bring that tractor in, I'm going to make a wild guess. I got a feeling where that sled's going. And again, that ground train is going to be down there, so you folks that want to get back to the campgrounds or need to get back to the campgrounds, that ground train is down there. Dan Gray and Cody doing the driving this afternoon. Between those guys, they're going to make a decision where to put it. Keep in mind that team just been together 2 times. Cody's handling them just fine. He's doing a nice job. Nice young man there. Going to have him pull her up and swing her around. It'll be a little bit of an angle. Might be a little easier said than done to get it exactly where they want. 9'11" on that first attempt, and of course by waving the second, they can spot the third. Okay. Here we go with Cody Gray out of Villisca. Team weighs 3,500. He's going to go back to the east. So keep real quiet while he hooks and pulls, and we'll see how we get along with this spot. They were working hard. Duke and Bud were. We'll get a measurement here, but Cody will not advance on. 14 foot 5 inches. That's going to be a pretty good mark. Good job, Cody. Give Cody Gray, if you would, out of Villisca, Iowa, a nice round of applause. A 4th generation horse puller. As I said, he's a nice young fella. Got the whole world in front of him right now. Joe Miller with Pete and Prince at 18 and 17-year-old horse. Had a little bit of a hard time catching up with Joe. He's busy and gone all the time, and I asked Clay Robinson, I said, where's Joe? Well, he's a little bit like Horseman around here. He's everywhere sometimes, he said. He didn't really use those same words, but close. Keep real still for Joe. See, they're ready to go. All they got to do is get close. Them hookers got a big job. And he gets the job done. There's a fine line, Joe, between knocking those blocks off and leaving that tennis ball in the cup. But he's got it figured out this afternoon. I guess that's twice now. One for another gentleman. So he'll move on. Good job, Joe. Ryan Smith. He's kind of got that bullseye on his back, being the winner the last 2 years in a row. We'll see if it can be a three-peat, as they call it. Ready for Ryan out of Clark, Missouri. Keep real quiet as he hooks and pulls. We're kind of getting down to the short rows here. Hey, he got the job done. One was ahead of the other one just a little bit, but he got him even back out. He covered 18 feet. Nice job. Nice job. He got her done. Okay. David White. Bill and Rex coming in. Both 7 years old. Dan's already made the decision. We're going to go up. We've got 2 men already crossed. We're going to go up 500 pounds the next go-round. That may not stop a couple of these teams. I'm not sure. We're about to find out. But first, we've got 3 left here. David White wearing his traditional bib overalls, green t-shirt, and green cap. It's easy to find David. That might be his good luck colors. Going towards the east. Bill and Rex. And they cover 18 feet. I told you we were going to have a good finish at this horse pull. We've got several guys. They're going to be tough to beat. Dan Gray's another one coming up. Your 4,000-pound team, and then we got the 4,200 left. Then we're going to throw on 500 pounds. Going to move that tennis ball and go the other direction. Dan took home second place here 2 years in a row. Last year and the year before, he'd sure like that first place.
Is it a ribbon?
Ribbon? Or honor, anyway. He's been at it about 30 years, so he's got a little bit of experience. Quite a little bit of experience. He's going to bring him in. They got the blocks situated heavily. Ben and Jerry. Like I said, those guys helping you hitch, their job gets a little more important as the pull goes on, because if they goof up, then that kind of messes up the whole deal. So their job to get that hook in there, and you kind of see it's not got a lot of curve to it. That makes it easier to get in and out.
Drop the tennis ball.
That's a good catch, Joe. Good catch. Got it back in there. Tennis ball bounced out. Tennis ball bounced out. Joe caught it and put it back in there. I don't know if anybody hardly seen it or not. I guess I didn't see anything. That is what happened, isn't it? Yeah. First one was 2 foot. First one was 2 foot on the money. 2 foot even. Going to bring that tractor in, is he? Going to probably pick out that favorite spot that worked for him before. So we got 3 men across. Dan's attempt right now, and then Ed Allen to come up. But he jerked it just a little bit more than he needed to or wanted to, and that tennis ball popped right out. So that pull was a DQ. Going to use that spot tractor again to bring her up there. He might even, maybe he's got a little bit different spot picked out this time. We'll find out. Now, how about that? Now, you don't think there's a little weight there, huh? Because I say that's a pretty good sized tractor. I mean, not really as far as field work goes, but that's a 4-wheel drive tractor. Several horsepower, and he had it just a little bit of a high gear. Not the best demonstration for a John Deere, but we'll just blame it on the operator, not on the tractor. Right there. That's not the first time that's happened either. So that sled is heavy. And it doesn't, with, like I mentioned, those narrow 4-inch rails, it just doesn't slide very good. So this will be Dan Gray's third and final attempt. Looks like they're going to set him up to head towards the east. 2 foot was that first mark. They just never got together, one ahead of the other, then vice versa. So he'll try to do everything he can to ease into it and let them work together. So we'll keep real quiet here one more time for Dan Gray. He's going to come up a little bit short there. He did better than Mark, which could make quite a little difference here. 8 foot 6 inches if you're keeping score. So 8'6" will be the mark that stands. And we'll see how that shakes everything out. Teresa's over here going to do the fine tuning on the scorekeeping. Ready for Ed Allen and the Smock family team of Flash and Doc. Ed's dad is in the auction business down there around Clarence, Missouri. These horses have been kind of a family deal for a lot of years. They like coming to events like this. So, Flash and Doc. Going to be tough to beat. 4,200 pound, the heavy team in the contest. And they covered 18 feet. They just worked together and worked along there and did a really good job. Nice job, Ed Allen. 3 off. That will add. So we've got 4 gentlemen left in the contest. Here comes Joe Miller. You don't have to wait long for Joe. Joe Miller, Clark, Missouri, going towards the east. Them guys are ready to go. Joe's ready, and the horses are raring and ready. Keep real still. He's not going to be too far from that 18, but he's going to be a little bit short. 12'3", Dan says. 12'3", Joe. See what he wants to do. He's kind of eyeballing the track here just a little bit. Fanny, you want to chime in here at any point? You're going to go up there and show him where? Don't get your feet muddy. The bridge is over here. Little scraps from the Vermeer mill, I think, is laying down there. Now, you know, Fanny, by going out there, if this don't work out right, you might have been better. Maybe you better come on back here. If this don't work out right, it is going to be a long car ride home, I can tell you that. Oh, you drove too soon. Oh, well, go ahead then. All right, that'll work out. You can't go wrong here, Joe. Just listen to what she says. You will have to go home eventually, though. You can't stay at Old Thrashers till next year. Like I said, Fanny was up here a few years ago, and she drove a team, and Joe drove a team, and I'd have to look at the records here, how that all shook out, but they competed against one another, and then when it come down to this point, they helped one another decide what to do, but she just kind of taking it easy today. Okay. I think they've had a board meeting, and Ben, you were even in on that. Their son Ben's down there in the green shirt. I wasn't sure who that young man was, but that's their son Ben. Are you the one putting the blocks on there kind of half so? Because every block you put on this side seems to fall off when Joe pulls. I don't know. We're going to have to review this afterwards. We can watch this playback. It is being Ustreamed live all over the world. This little camera right here, we've done that now, how many years? 4 or 5?
5, yeah.
I'd have never thought, I say it every year, I never thought we'd get to the point where there's people, there can be somebody anywhere in the world, as long as they have a computer, and I suppose you got to have the internet or whatever, something hooked up. Huh? Guatemala. Guatemala is watching right now. I bet they can't figure out what we're doing, probably, really. So why would all them people get together on Labor Day and watch these horses drag these cement blocks up and down this track? Well, they're missing it. Maybe they can get over here sometime, but you streaming that horse pull, we've done that several years. Okay. I think we've, oh, nope. Yeah, we're getting the final instructions for Joe Miller, Pete and Prince, right there. Is that okay, Fanny? That'll work. Okay. No pressure, Joe. Yeah. He's starting to sweat. He's sweating. Well, it's kind of up. Well, no, I won't say it's up to Pete and Prince at this time. Obviously, Joe has a little something to do with it, but they are the ones going to be hooked on. So, 18 and a 17, I think that's probably the oldest team in. There's a pair that were both 15. 18 and 17 years old. He's going to bring them down. We'll get that spot tractor out of the way. 4 guys left. 12 foot 3 inches the first time around. So here we go for Joe's third attempt. Keep really, really quiet. He's going to get the whistle blown on him. We're going to see 15 foot even. 15 feet even for Joe. Give Joe Miller a big round of applause. Clark, Missouri. Fanny, this hole still could work out. He didn't get, yeah. The sled was in the right spot. Joe didn't get him going just quite the way he should. That's what Fanny said. Yep. Way to go, Joe. Okay. 15 foot even. Like I said, a lot of pulls in Missouri. That would have been a whistleblower right there. So we're going to go with 15 foot. Ryan Smith. Oh, yeah. Okay, we're ready for Ryan out of Clark, Missouri. Tom and Don. It's getting tough. We'll keep real quiet. $11 foot 9. 11 foot 9. So you can see every inch counts, and I think we have had a contest decided by 1 or 2 inches, probably. Huh? Yeah. We've had some close contests before. We're going to see what Ryan wants to do here. He's going to bring that tractor in. We'll come up with a different spot. First time the team's been together, only owned that Don horse on the left, or on the Tom horse on the right just over a week. We're going to bring that tractor in. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Bishop standing down there. Didn't he do a wonderful job with the national anthem to get us started here? Sings it several years. Thanks again, Paul. Appreciate you doing that. Sometimes you hear those high-paid singers sing the national anthem, and sometimes it's hard to even recognize what song they're singing once in a while, but he does a nice job, lays it out there just as pretty as can be. Well, Ryan's decided we're going to bring her back here. We're going to put her just about front and center, right in the middle. Everybody will have a good seat. Tractor driver using a lower gear. He wasn't about to do what he did that last time again. A little better showing this time. Now he wants him to angle it just a little bit, I believe. I don't know if I'd want to park behind him in a parking lot or not. Evidently, we haven't got that far yet where the tractors have backup beepers on them or backup cameras. We're probably not too far away, but that one must not have one. Yeah, I see he's got a sunroof. That's kind of nice. Well, I tell you anymore, some of these brand new John Deeres or Internationals or whatever your flavor, they are pretty fancy and pretty deluxe on the inside. Heated power mirrors, refrigerators, auto steer. Some guys, they go plant corn, now they take a book along with them so they can read the book in between turning on the end, and that's pretty much automatic too. Pretty fine adjustment that one was. We'll see how it works out. 11 foot 9 inches. "15 feet is Joe's longest mark. So he's trying to beat Joe. He's got to squeeze out 15 feet. So we'll keep real quiet here for Ryan. Last attempt here. Hey, how about that? He got the 18 foot covered. He got it chained just enough tight. That horseshoe fell over and the horses stopped. That was just right. No wasted energy there. So he covered the mark. Okay. 2 men left. David White with this last minute put together team of Bill and Rex. He's been 7th place here 2 years in a row, so he's going to up that mark a little bit. Going towards the east. Let's keep real quiet for David as he hooks on. Going to be just a little short. 14 foot, 5 inches if you're keeping score. 14-5, David. Ed Allen's going to talk to him a little bit. Whisper a few words of encouragement. Several years ago, there was a team kind of in the same situation. The owner and the driver walked around, and he stood in front of them for quite a while and kind of talked to them. I said, "What'd you say to them horses?" He said, "Alpo." And then they got the 18 foot done. I don't know if that's true or not, but actually I think it was. He's kind of talking it over down there. That might be what they're telling them horses. Kind of got a board meeting going on. Now, I'm not sure what the conversation could be. They might not even be talking about the Horsepull at this point. They might be seeing where they're going to stop for supper on the way home. We got a plan. Okay. David says, we got a plan. And that plan is, it looks like you're going to stay right where you're at. Is that right? Yep. Okay. Good luck. Keep quiet. Well, now we'll see what they come up with. That's going to be a little shorter, I think. Darn it. 10'7". Who made that plan anyway? You did? Right now, he's pointing the other direction. Nobody's going to take blame or take responsibility for that plan. Going to bring that tractor in. Now they're all walking down here to the west a little bit. Kind of where things have been working for some of the others. You know, look her over pretty close. Probably shouldn't start telling jokes, but we're going to have just a little bit of time. And I probably won't get it right because I'm not a very good joke teller. And hope nobody gets upset. That's why I don't tell jokes, because usually you make somebody mad. But there was a couple of Missouri farmers. They wanted to go out and buy a mule. So they went out and they bought a mule, hauled it home, unloaded it off the trailer, went to put it in the barn, and its ears were hitting the barn door when they tried to walk it into the barn. So they looked at one another a little bit and didn't know what to do. Pretty soon, several hours went by, and an Iowa farmer walked up. And these guys were just working their tails off. They had jacks and blocks and all kinds of things. They were raising the barn up so the mule would fit, so his ears wouldn't hit the top of the door. And that Iowa farmer, he said, well, why don't you guys just dig a little dirt out from where he walks in that door? Just take a little dirt out there, and then maybe his ears won't hit the door. And he walked away, and then two Missouri farmers said, typical Iowa know-it-all. He said, it's not his legs that's too long. He says his ears is too long. Nothing wrong with his legs. Heard that on the way home from an auction one day. Then some of the rest of them, I can't even begin to tell you what we heard on the way home. Here we go. David White, third and final attempt. Going to come towards the east. Oh, no, he's going the other way. He's going to the west. I'm looking at that wrong. He's got her angled off. He's going to have to be careful on them out of bounds. Yeah, well, I put up signs, east and west. Keep real quiet. Going to come up a little bit short there, but David White from Sturgeon, Missouri. David, we appreciate you coming up to Old Thrashers again, putting on a good show. 12'2", so 14.5, right? 12'2" on that one, 10.7 on the other one, 14.5 is the one that's going to matter. 9. 9 blocks go on. We got Ed Allen coming up with that big team, and Ryan Smith has crossed the 18-foot distance. So this is kind of for all the marbles, if you will. Flash and Doc, half-brothers, 9 and 8 years old. Got them blocks situated just the way they want them. And as I said before, don't go away. We'll run down the placings from top to bottom, and then we'll let you know who the guys down there on the ground have elected as the horsemanship or showmanship award. Then they always tell you if you're interested, you don't need to be in a big hurry. Give them just a second down there, and if you want to go down by their trailers and stand and visit and talk, they'd love to talk to you folks. If you got some questions or something maybe you didn't understand why they did this or why they did that, they're always eager to talk to you folks. So don't be bashful or don't be afraid to go down and do that. They'll be glad to talk to you. This team's, some of Ed Allen's teams and horses have been pretty tough. We'll see how they get along here at Old Thrashers. Going to be going back west just a little bit. Keep real still here just a couple more times. Here you go. Well, now we've got 2 men across the distance. Dan, Teresa says add 1 block if you're going up 500. If you want to put on 500, we've got Ryan Smith coming in at 37.50, and you just saw Ed Allen Smock at 4,200. So 1 block. This is where it may come down to inches, so keep real still till you hear that whistle blow. This will probably determine it. Keep real quiet. 3 foot 7 inches on your score sheets. 3 foot 7. He wants the tractor, it looks like. He wants the tractor. Ryan Smith out of Clark, Missouri. Going to pick out a good spot on that track. One where he thinks he can pull it farther than Ed Allen this go-round around. We're sure grateful the rain stayed away this afternoon. They kind of had that rain predicted last night, but they also had it predicted, I thought, for better part of today. But it didn't turn out that way, which we're thankful for. He's going to put her on that high side a little bit, add an angle. And he wants her pointed that other way. I think if they put it at enough of an angle, they're banking on a few blocks falling off. I got it figured out. Now he's going to bring her nose this end down just a little bit. Kind of like they have before. Well, I just as well plug Sullivan Auctioneers for sponsoring the Horsepull. I might get fired tomorrow if I don't. Sullivan Auctioneers over at Hamilton, Illinois. Good bunch of guys to work for. I happen to work for them. Got them break loose with a little sponsor money. Jim and Joe and Dan are the 3 boys that own the company over there. Their dad got them started in the auction business. They keep me hustling along quite a bit. Okay. 3-7 on that first one. Here we go. Kind of for all the marbles. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Ryan Smith. We're going to get a measurement. It could be a little bit further, but it's not going to be too much further. Oh, 5'2". 5'2" is going to be the mark we use. 5'2". So, Ed Allen and that Smock family team, 9 blocks. 9 blocks. Count them close. Ed Allen Smock, the last guy to mix this thing up a little bit. Got to beat that last distance, and then we're going to, or if he does, we're going to have a winner declared. We're just about to run out of blocks anyway. Yeah, if we'd be up at 10,000 pounds, we would have to go get some more blocks, but I guess they got them loaded. As I said before, there's the boss out there kicking the dirt around a little bit. That's Ed. Ed himself right there. Kind of the boss of the operation. Not really. Well, I see you kicked that one clod out of the way. That's it. Okay. Let's keep real still for Ed Allen from Clarence, Missouri, as he brings his team in. I think he just stopped him on purpose. He knew he had the distance covered. I believe I'll run down through there, but I think, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at your winner of the 2014 Don Carlson Memorial Horsepull, Invitational Horsepull. That's going to be Ed Allen Smock right there from Clarence, Missouri. Big round of applause if you would. Good job, Ed. Oh, what was it? 15 foot 1 inch, but he kind of reined him in there just a little bit. 15-1. Now I'll go down through the placings if you're keeping score and keeping track. Of course, we've got Ed Allen right there. Ed Allen Smock in first place. Ryan Smith is going to be in second place. Joe Miller from Clark, Missouri in third place. David White with the White and the Smock team in fourth place. Cody Gray from Valiska, Iowa. Cody doing a nice job in fifth place. Ray Smith coming in at sixth place. Then we have Dan Gray in seventh place. Clay Robinson in eighth place. Rusty Harris in ninth. J.W. in 10th. We have Jody Moss in 11th. And Erlen Cooksley in 12th place, and we're sure glad they all come up here. And Clay Robinson is going to be the horsemanship. He's going to get the horsemanship award. Clay Robinson, thank you to Clay for coming up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's going to wrap it up another year here at the Old Thrashers Reunion. Have a safe trip home. We look forward to seeing you here next year at the 2015 Invitational Horsepull Don Carlson at the Midwest Old Settlers and Thrashers Reunion. Have a good trip home. Finished up with 8,000.